I was halfway through restoring a 1972 Dodge Challenger in my backyard workshop when I noticed the bright orange sticker plastered across my garage door. Immediate cease and desist. Whole compliance violation. I blinked twice. I wasn't part of any HOA. My property sat just outside the official boundary line, or so I thought. I ripped off the notice and stormed inside. My girlfriend Rachel sat at the kitchen island with her laptop open. "You got another one," she said, sliding over a thick envelope marked Urgent HOA Enforcement Division. Inside was a typed letter signed by Karen Temple, self-declared president of the adjacent neighborhood's HOA. She claimed my workshop was aesthetic pollution and declared it would be rezoned as common-use land under a retroactive clause. The paper included an ultimatum: vacate the structure in 48 hours or face property seizure. I laughed, a real pissed-off laugh. I stepped outside and saw her. Karen, mid-50s, platinum bob haircut, designer sunglasses, holding a clipboard like a weapon. She was standing just on her side of the invisible property line, pointing her phone at my garage like she was gathering evidence for a war crimes tribunal. "Smile. You're violating community standards," she chirped. "This isn't your community," I snapped. "This land isn't in your jurisdiction." Karen smirked. "We had the boundary extended. Voted last month. It passed." That's when I knew this wasn't about codes. It was personal. I went back inside and dug out every piece of paper from my property purchase. Nothing suggested I was under any HOA control, but they'd filed something new. I could feel it. The next day, a crew showed up. 3 men in polos and reflective vests claiming to be compliance contractors. They tried to padlock my garage shut. One of them even wheeled out a bright yellow violation zone sign and jammed it in my lawn. Rachel called the sheriff. I confronted the crew. One of them reached for something on his hip. I reached faster. My hand went to the holster I kept on my belt during work hours. My 1911 Colt barked once. A warning shot into the dirt, just feet from the intruder's boots. They backed off fast, but I knew Karen wasn't done. That night, I made a decision. I pulled out the county zoning code book, grabbed my blueprints, and called in a favor. If Karen wanted to fight over land use, I'd turn my garage into a licensed public gun range. By sunrise the next day, I had 3 things in motion. First, I submitted my zoning application to the county clerk, officially converting my detached garage into a Class C indoor firearms training facility. It was legal, loud, and completely out of HOA jurisdiction. Second, I printed copies of my land deeds, boundary maps, and that critical clause proving my property was outside HOA limits. I laminated everything and posted it right on my fence line, big, bold, and legally bulletproof. And third, I fired the first official shot on my private gun range. Boom. The sound echoed like thunder across the cul-de-sac. Rachel recorded everything, grinning behind safety glasses. "That'll wake the neighborhood," she said. "Good," I replied, adjusting my ear muffs. "Let them know the war's started." 20 minutes later, a black BMW screeched to a halt outside my gate. Karen, in full meltdown mode, came stomping up the driveway in her beige flats like a bull in a pantsuit. Her clipboard was missing, replaced with rage and a phone glued to her ear. She was yelling before I even removed my ear protection. "You are in direct violation of Section 14A. I pointed to the laminated poster, "Not under your HOA, legal gun range, zoned and registered." Her eyes narrowed as if trying to melt the paperwork with pure hate. "You think this is over? I'll bring code enforcement. The EPA, the fire marshal. Hell, I'll bring the governor if I have to." "Great," I said. "They can all book a lane when we open." Karen marched off, screaming into her phone. I returned to my tools, but something told me she wasn't calling inspectors. That night, my suspicion was confirmed. At around 1 a.m., motion lights flicked on outside the garage. I peeked through the blinds and spotted two figures creeping along the side fence. Flashlights dimmed, wearing matching tactical black jackets marked Private Enforcement Unit. One had a holster, the other was holding bolt cutters. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my Colt single-action army off the workbench. I didn't even need to use it. Just stepping onto the gravel driveway in boots and flannel with that old-school revolver in my grip stopped them cold. "Hands up," I growled. "You're trespassing on federalized range property." The one with the cutters ran. The other froze. "Karen sent us. We're private compliance agents." "Private this," I muttered and fired a warning shot into the air. That did the trick. Both vanished into the dark like rats. But I had it all on video. By morning, the footage had gone viral. Thousands of shares, hashtags like #GunRangeRevenge and #HOA Karen Exposed were trending. But Karen wasn't going viral for long because the ATF had already called me back. The ATF agent who called me sounded calm but curious. "I reviewed the footage you sent. That wasn't a security company. Those were armed civilians impersonating enforcement officers. Very illegal." I gave him everything, license plates, timestamps, even Karen's emails. He promised to loop in local law enforcement and Homeland Security. "This might be bigger than a zoning dispute," he said. Damn right it was. By 3 p.m., two unmarked black SUVs rolled up to Karen's house. Four plainclothes agents stepped out, badges clipped, earpieces in. No nonsense. I watched from the edge of my lawn as they knocked on her perfectly painted blue door. Karen opened it with her signature smug face that melted into visible panic when she saw the badges. She tried to shut the door, but one agent stuck his foot in. They entered without another word. 10 minutes later, she came out in handcuffs. Rachel and I recorded the whole thing from the porch, barely able to contain our laughter. A small crowd had gathered. Neighbors from the HOA who had once backed Karen now whispered nervously, unsure what side of history they were on. The officers didn't arrest her on felony charges yet, but I knew it was coming. Turns out, Karen had hired a pair of off-duty rental cops, outfitted them with custom fake badges and gear, and gave them explicit instructions to shut down the range. That alone could mean up to 5 years in prison. But it got worse. Inside her home, agents found documents showing she'd been attempting to forge rezoning petitions. She tried to manipulate county GIS maps by uploading outdated plats and submitting falsified community votes to the zoning commission. She hadn't extended HOA lines legally. She just faked it. It was a fraud operation disguised as neighborhood beautification. After Karen was taken away for questioning, I expected it to be over. But that night, someone spray-painted "terrorist" across my new range gate. My security cams caught the act. It wasn't Karen, but two masked men wearing HOA lawn crew shirts. This wasn't just Karen anymore. The whole HOA board was in on it. I printed stills from the video and handed them over to the sheriff the next morning. "We're filing criminal conspiracy charges," he said. "They're not a homeowners association anymore. They're a rogue organization." And just like that, the HOA became a gang case. But I didn't stop there. With the help of a lawyer and a local veterans group, I filed an injunction to seize HOA common land bordering my range for community safety training purposes. And guess what? It passed. The town board approved my injunction in record time. 3 acres of unused HOA property, once just a manicured lawn with 2 benches and a rusted bird bath, was now legally designated community firearms training land. I renamed it Karen's Folly Tactical Grounds. A dozen retired vets from the local VFW showed up on day 1, helping me haul sandbags, build safe barriers, and set up shooting stalls. We even put up a 20-foot banner that read, "HOA Free Zone. Trespassers will be educated loudly." The range was now fully operational. And Karen? She was in deep federal trouble. But she wasn't done yet. On a foggy Friday morning, just before sunrise, my driveway alarm went off again. I looked through my upstairs scope and saw 3 pickup trucks rolling in quietly, all with tinted windows, 2 of them marked with phony municipal enforcement decals. Here we go again. I grabbed my Colt single-action army and this time strapped on a chest rig, too. Rachel had already dialed the sheriff. The security cams were recording. I stepped out into the chill with floodlights snapping on. From the trucks spilled 6 men in black jackets, armed with paintball markers designed to look like real rifles. They moved in a triangle formation toward the garage door. Karen herself stepped out last, wearing a neon vest and shouting, under subsection 92 of Emergency HOA Ordinance, this property is now under community seizure authority. That's when 2 sheriff cruisers screeched in behind them, lights blazing. The real cops had been waiting, just out of sight. Drop everything. Hands where we can see, the sheriff's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Karen froze like she'd just been caught sneaking out of purgatory. The fake enforcers dropped their gear and raised their hands as deputies sprinted toward them. Within seconds, they were zip-tied and on the ground. One cried. Another tried to run and got tackled into my gravel. And Karen, she made a final mistake. She ran toward my porch, screaming, "He's the criminal. That range is illegal. He threatened me with a gun." But I was already holding the laminated zoning approval papers. I handed them to the deputy mid-chase. He didn't even look at Karen. "Ma'am, you're being placed under arrest for impersonation of a public officer, conspiracy to trespass, and attempted armed intimidation." She wailed as they cuffed her right on my front lawn. The news hit local TV that night. They showed her mugshot and called it HOA madness in the suburbs. A week later, the HOA dissolved under pressure, and the board resigned in disgrace. And me? I host Veterans Range Days every Sunday, right where Karen tried to destroy everything. If that Karen got what she deserved, then smash that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe because we're not done with these HOA tyrants.